Do you want to talk about Brexit? Yeah? Do you remember George Eustice? He was Environment Secretary, was he? Ex-UKIP, one of the big tub thumpers for how brilliant Brexit was going to be. And do you remember the Australian trade deal? Do you remember that? And Liz Truss did a lap of honour, boasting about how brilliant it was. And those of us who are part of the tofu-eating wokerati sat here saying, it's really not brilliant. And they said, what do you know? You're just a member of the metropolitan elite. And we said, well, no, actually, farmers are pretty clear about this. Farmers are pretty clear that they are being absolutely shafted by the then International Trade Secretary, Liz Truss, and Prime Minister Boris Johnson over the so-called trade deal with Australia. Do you remember that? So, listen, if you're still a bit Brexity, just pay attention. All right? They've made you look really stupid again. This is the thing. It's not me that makes you look stupid. It's them. It's the people you support who make you look stupid. Because when I told you that the Australian trade deal was a dog's dinner, and when I proved it to you with expert input and advice, when we showed you what, for example, the National Farmers Union was saying, when we demonstrated and when people stood up, or tried at least, because there was never any vote on it after taking back control, it was never voted on. When we pointed out all of the flaws in it, I think, didn't we even play a little clip from either Australia or New Zealand where a mainstream news report, a mainstream news bulletin was essentially laughing at us? They were queuing up, and I think it was New Zealand farmers who were queuing up to say, I can't believe it. I can't believe what they've signed up for. I simply can't believe what's gone on. And then you got all gammony about it and started banging on about sovereignty and saying, ha, 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 drink your Remainer tears, you're wrong, it's a brilliant deal. And now George Eustice, the actual ex-UKIP, ex-Environment Secretary, ex-DEFRA, so Department of Environment, Farming and Rural Affairs, has blown it. He's coughed, he's blown the whistle, he's let the cat out of the bag. So they've made you look stupid again. George Eustice, who went along with this deal that he's now telling the truth about, they made you look stupid. Just like David Frost made you look stupid with the withdrawal agreement. When you went into Christmas 2019 thinking it was the dog's whatsits, you thought it was the cat's pyjamas, you thought it was the bee's knees, because that's what they kept telling you. And then a month later or 2 months later, they're saying, oh no, we're going to have to break the law to get out of this amazing deal that we've done, this oven-ready deal that still isn't finished. It's not the tofu-eating wokerati that keep making you look stupid. It's the people you support. Nigel Farage with his borders nonsense. How's that working out for you? How's that working out for you? You know, if you really do hate refugees and asylum seekers and you voted for Brexit to stop them coming here, how's that working out for you? So who's made you look stupid there? People who tried to help you be less angry about it, to be a little better informed? Or the people that told you that by voting to become the first country in history to impose economic sanctions on itself, we'd somehow become impenetrable for asylum seekers and refugees? So Farage has made you look stupid. David Frost has made you look stupid. Boris Johnson has made you look stupid. Nadine Dorries has made you look stupid. Jacob Rees-Mogg has made you look stupid. And now George Eustice has made you look stupid. It's not me that makes you look stupid. It's the people that lie to you that make you look stupid when you believe their lies, and then the truth comes out. This is so important, this. Possibly the most important part of modern British politics. Because they keep the divisions alive. They keep the divisions alive with their disgusting rhetoric about refugees. They keep the divisions alive with their stupid descriptions of tofu-eating wokerati. They desperately want to keep a wedge between us, but the wedge isn't ideological or political. The wedge is about reality versus lies. The deal that we signed with Australia was a pile of poo. It was designed entirely to allow Liz Truss to go to the G7 in Cardiff and do a lap of honour. Boris Johnson was too busy faffing around. God knows what he was up to. He probably didn't even read it. But he can stand up in the House of Commons and describe it as brilliant. And what did you do? Yeah, you took the win, didn't you? You cheered it. Got Brexit done and that great Australian trade. Did you know why Liz Truss became Prime Minister? Liz Truss became Prime Minister because these ludicrous deals that she signed or rolled over were portrayed by Liz Truss as being superb. And people were so desperate for anything that allowed them to cling to the notion that Brexit was going well or that Brexit was a good idea. They were so desperate for it that they put Liz Truss at the top of their approval ratings in the whole of Boris Johnson's cabinet. I remember looking at it and thinking, pardon? Liz Truss, the most popular member, oh God, they think these deals are good. They think the deals that have just been rolled over from what we had with the EU are some sort of achievement, which of course they're not. They think the deals with places like Japan, which are in some ways on paper better than what we had as a European Union member, but actually in real terms worse, because a company that was doing trade with the UK in the EU gets a gateway to the biggest single market in the world. A company in Japan contemplating contracts with a company in the UK that's not in the EU. Well, you can work that out for yourself. But so Liz Truss, and then the deal with Australia, the one that the EU doesn't have, the one that didn't involve a rollover, this brand spanking shiny new trade deal with Australia. That's what made Liz Truss Prime Minister. And George Eustice, who was in the farming department at the time, well, have a little listen to what he said in the House of Commons yesterday.
Unless we recognise the failures that the Department for International Trade made during the Australia negotiations, we won't be able to learn the lessons of future negotiations. And there are critical negotiations underway right now, notably on CPTPP and on Canada. And it is essential that the Department for International Trade does not repeat the mistakes it made. And so the first step is to recognise that the Australia trade deal is not actually a very good deal for the UK. It wasn't for lack of trying on my part. Indeed, as my old friend pointed out, there were things that we achieved. A special agricultural safeguard for years 10 to 15, staged liberalisation across the first decade, the protection of British sovereignty in SPS issues. It's no surprise that many of these areas were areas negotiated either exclusively or predominantly by DEFRA on behalf of the UK team. But it has to be said that overall, the truth of the matter is that the UK gave away far too much for far too little in return.
That's actually incredible. In a normal country, that would be epic news, because it is yet more evidence of the utterly unnecessary and avoidable damage that we've done to ourselves in pursuit of some mythical dream, some mythical thing called Brexit, a brooch of purist Brexit. That's George Eustice talking yesterday in the House of Commons about the government that he was in. He said the opposite at the time, I'm pretty confident. Incredibly cowardly, incredibly craven, incredibly duplicitous, now that he's no longer a minister, to turn around and urinate all over the deal that they were cheering to the rafters not long ago. I'll find you. Guess who's at the front of the queue of people who are describing it in strong terms. I've got another clip for you if you want to hear it, from a fellow that used to be on the Monetary Policy Committee. But before we do that, just cast your mind back to July of 2021. So you've now heard George Eustice, who was part of the negotiations. In a craven and cowardly fashion, he's turned around after losing his place in government and put the boot into a deal that everybody honest knew was rubbish when he was telling us it was brilliant. Guess who stood up in the House of Commons and said this?
I have more confidence in my farmers. I think they can compete with the best in the world, and the Australians are fantastic farmers who have high standards of animal welfare, and we should not be so frightened, so nervy, so feeble in feeling that a little bit of competition from Australia will do us harm. It will do us all good, and our farmers will flourish and prosper as they get access to new markets too.